being that I've been in the community in the South End, especially for as long as I have been, word gets out. Like the box community is really small, and people will come and train, and then they'll tell their friends, and then their friends will show up, and then those friends will tell other friends, and then it just kind of grows from there. And just like all things with gyms, there's ebbs and flows of students, but being active within social media and trying to be more present within like competitions around the area, you get seen, and you get, people notice you, and they start saying, oh, okay, I remember this team, they had this one fighter who, I like the way they did this, or within like, say, like Instagram or like Facebook and stuff like that, putting out like video material or just like photo material on there, just getting the word out. But hoping to continue to grow that in other venues such as this, or any which way I can. One thing that I tell the team all the time is I tell them, and it sounds super cliche, but I tell them we're not a team, this is family, right? And I'm very big about that because that's the way I was raised within my boxing. Like, the men who taught me are like second fathers to me. And the people that I trained with are like my brothers and sisters, because unlike other sports, like say baseball or like a basketball, right? Boxing's very, very intimate. You can't get more intimate than punching one another in the face. And to be able to do that, and to do it, number one, in a safe way, and number two, in a way that is going to grow people and not crush people's spirits, you have to really treat it as a family, right? You have to be looking out for one another. You have to care about how somebody's doing. You can't go in there and beat up your teammates, right? Because that's not going to help them, right? So my team's very tight-knit. So we eat together. We hang out outside of the gym. But the response I've gotten from the team has been one of real cohesiveness. So, these guys are always checking on each other. When somebody's visibly not doing well in the gym, they're checking on one another. Hey, what do you need? What can I do for you? And then really one of the most amazing things is watching people push their teammates in the gym. And not even in the sense of push like, you can do better or this and that, or, suck it up, in terms of really helping to raise people's their spirits. Like when they can tell that one of their teammates is struggling, really trying to bolster them and try to remind them that they're, a lot stronger than they think they are, and that they've been through tougher, and that they can do this. So it's been amazing watching the way the team has like really grown and really grow together. I think for me, the biggest thing is boxing has always been the sport of like the lower classes people, right? You'll never see rich kids who box, right? Because it's not a thing that you're going to do. You're going to do a sport that's not going to require you to get punched in the mouth, right? So growing up in the South End in Columbus City especially, it was a way for me as a Filipino person to find like equal footing in a lot of environments where, I didn't grow up going to soccer camps. I didn't grow up going to baseball camps. My parents didn't have that money, so going to the boxing gym and being able to compete there, and to go in there and know that like, hey, I'm capable of doing something better than what people expect of you, right? A lot of folks go like, hey, oh, you're from where are you from? Oh, you're from the South, you're from South Seattle. Okay. They kind of put a ceiling on what they expect that you're capable of doing, right? And being in the boxing gym with the generation of men who trained me really pushed me to understand that I was capable of much more of than what people say I'm capable of, not only just coming from the area that I come from, but also being an immigrant, a Filipino kid. English was my second language, when I first got here to speak English. So knowing that I was capable of much more than my status socially or economically would say I was, so taking those lessons and then passing it on to the next generation of kids who are also coming from the area that I grew up in, and letting them know that, you're more than what people say you are. you're more a lot of times than what you think you are. And it's really up to me as the coach to like, my goal, my purpose is to point the finger in the direction that you want to go, right? I'm going to walk with you there. I can't make you go there. You got to do the lifting, but I'm going to be there with you. I'm going to guide you. I'm going to point you in the right direction. I'm going to keep you moving in the right direction. And being able to take those types of lessons that I got and pass it on has been really one of the ways that, the culture, being Filipino and bring it into a family environment, has really affected the way that I coach. Like, I was competing like in the mid to late 90s to like early 2000s, and if my memory serves me, that's still kind of before the Manny Pacquiao scene. So you didn't really have a lot of people who looked like me boxing, right? Luckily, I grew up in a really diverse area, and it was never a situation where I was feeling like, oh, there's just me and like there's everybody else. So it was literally like a lot of the South End kids, like it's all the South End kids. It's like South End versus everybody, so it was definitely interesting going into other environments where, there's no Asian kids, there's no Pacific Islander kids, and being the one guy, like, going to shows and seeing all the Latino kids, all the Black youth, and then there's like me. So it was interesting. It was cool to be able to perform better than people expected. And they're like, oh, that Filipino kid, he was good, and as much as it was fun for me as a kid to be like, yeah, I did well. It felt good to represent the people who taught me and to show respect to them that way. The biggest thing for me is not even that I want anybody to look at me like, oh, as a role model per se, like, hey, I want to be like him. I want to be the catalyst that prompts the youth to look deeper into, their culture, even if it starts at the Philippine boxing culture. Know that Filipino boxing started before Manny Pacquiao. There's been great champions before Manny Pacquiao, Seferino Garcia, Speedy Dotto, Small Montana, those guys, right? That it goes way, way beyond Manny Pacquiao, that, that their culture has been here, even as a box culture, for generations, and then hopefully that, looking into that is going to prompt them to look deeper into the culture beyond boxing, like, where's my family come from? What, beyond what dialect my family speaks, what province is my family from, and really connecting that way. Because I think a lot of times, especially growing up here, that's something that doesn't get passed along. I was fortunate enough to grow up in a house where I learned my language. Mind you, it's pretty broken compared for what my folks would say, but it's been a blessing to at least be able to speak my mother tongue, or at least to understand it. And I really hope that by being present in kids' lives and them seeing the things that I'm doing, that it prompts them to look deeper into themselves. The great thing about boxing is that it allows you, like, in a lot of situations in life, we're going to face discrimination, we're going to face prejudice, and there's sometimes no real physical concrete ways to fight that, right? Folks are out there doing everything they can to uplift communities and to do what they can to support people in the community, right? But I think what's really interesting about boxing, it puts you in a situation where you can physically fight back, right? So it allows you to do something that's concrete in your hands, right? I may not, you may not be able to match somebody, say, at a socioeconomic level, right? But in the boxing gym, in the ring, you can exceed what people say what you can do. Like, this is your limit, and you're telling people, no, my limit is not where you say it is. It's up here, and I'm going to physically show you what I can do and what I'm capable of by what I do in the ring. So I think boxing is amazing for giving people a physical and concrete means of proving people wrong. Kids nowadays approach boxing in a very different way. Back in the day, boxing was a means for people to uplift themselves socioeconomically, being able to move themselves into better standards of living. So boxing was connected with uplift a lot more then, right? You're seeing kids who like coming out of ghettos and using boxing as a means to get their families into better positions, right? And boxing is eventually, it's going to evolve, and it's, it's becoming more of a business now. You're seeing folks who are concerned about their records, right? And you're seeing people who are treating boxing as, like, say, a freak show. You're seeing a lot more of these fights where, like, it's some random person off of YouTube fighting like a 60-year-old boxer, or someone who's completely, like, has been off the scene for years, right? Because it's getting exposure, it's getting views, and but in a lot of ways it's taking the heart out of boxing. And you kind of see that with kids now when they're coming in like, oh, I saw so-and-so YouTuber do this fight and I want to try boxing because it looks cool, right? And then they come to kind of the realization what boxing really is, and which is one of the great things that, like, I tell my team all the time, the great thing about boxing is self-correcting, right? I can tell you all the time, keep your hand up, keep your hand up. Someone's going to punch you in the face and you're going to remember to keep your hand up, right? It's self-correcting. And it's kind of I kind of like that about boxing with, it kind of weeds people out, right? You get kids who are going to come in, or even adults too, who are like, yeah, I saw this on YouTube, or I saw this fight on TV, or I saw this movie and I'm super stoked about it and I want to fight. And I'm like, okay, I tell them, let's train, and realities come into play. And then a lot of times folks will rise to the occasion. They're like, okay, this is exactly what I want to do. But then, you also get the folks who are like, this is not what I want to do. And, that's perfectly fine, And I tell folks, hey, it's not for everyone. If it was for everybody would do it, But there's definitely been a shift in the culture of boxing, in the perception of boxing, and just in the way it gets treated. Boxing is it's a very sacred thing for me. It's been a thing that, like, as cliche as it sounds, boxing has saved my life in a lot of ways. I was real fortunate enough to have a coaching staff who cared a lot about me and helped push me. And it's something that I do every time I step in the gym. I think to myself, is what I'm teaching this team today is the way I'm conducting myself. If my teachers saw me, would they be proud to say that I was their student? And I think that's something that starts to get lost nowadays. Every coach of every team hopes just to continue to grow their team and to see them be successful, in and out of the ring. But for me, I think a lot of this is to see my team be successful overall in life. Boxing is fleeting. Nobody competes for their entire life. You can box your entire life, right? But there's a set period of time where you can compete and you can compete successfully, right? So my goal and my hopes is to be able to give my boxers, my team, skills and principles for themselves that will help them later on in life. There's nothing that's been, bigger for me as a coach than to hear a fighter come back and say, I was struggling and I remember something you told me and it helped me to get through that, and I've come out the other end and I'm better for it. So really my hopes and dreams are really just to grow my people and to see them be better than they thought they were capable of being. I want to see the boxing community in Seattle grow. When I was younger, there was a lot more boxing community. There was events like every other weekend here within the city. Now, you're having to go to like Eastern Washington, you're having to go to Beaverton, Oregon, you're having to go to Montana or Colorado to get fights and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that the scene out here grows, and it grows, and then hopefully it grows in the right way and in a way that's sustainable and is healthy for both the community and for the fighters. And just really see the coaches nowadays be able to continue to do what they're doing and to pass it on to the next generation, to see the next generation of coaches come up and just really see things just continue to take off from here.